You probably remember where you were and what you were doing when you heard the news of the planes crashing into the World Trade Center on September 11th. I was at work in my office and we heard the news on the radio. Some had called, seeing it on CNN. And then I got a phone call from a pilot who actually flies Flight 11, and he said, go to the McGuinnes home right away, the home of Tom and Cheryl McGuinnes. And I knew Tom was a pilot, and I feared the worst. Tom and Cheryl McGuinnes had moved to the seacoast of New Hampshire about a year before. They'd been members of our church for just about 1 year before September 11th. They were a wonderful family, a model family, really. Tom turned 42 the day before the crash happened. But to see Cheryl on that day and how she's handled it since then has been amazing for me. I'd like you to take a look now at Cheryl and her life and see how she's handled the hardest day in her life.
Oh, he had an exciting career. He went to Top Gun school and flew F-14s. He had a couple of 6-month cruises that were always interesting, provided many challenges for our family life, but he really enjoyed his time in the Navy. You know, when Tom was in the military, landing on aircraft carriers, he would explain that an aircraft carrier is about the size of a postage stamp when you're looking at it from the air and you're trying to come down and land on this carrier. And that was something to worry about. There was some difficult landings that would have to be made, and that was scary. And not only for me, but it was also scary for him at times. But then when he got out of the Navy and started flying for the airlines, it was such a different type of flying that it was extremely safe. And Tom always told us that it was safer to fly than to drive a car. So I was very comfortable with him going to work every day, and especially the type of flying when he would just fly across the country and come back. We'd always have a special meal when he came home, so that was easy. We attended this Bible study, a small group Bible study, and learned a lot. And Tom did a lot of studying on his own. And it wasn't until all the information moved from his head into his heart that he made some changes about the way he lived his life and the way he spent his time. And those changes were reflected in our family life, in the way that he interacted with our children, with the time that he spent with me, the things that we would talk about, the way that we made decisions for our family. And it's not that we lived in a bad way before, but once he received Christ and made Jesus Lord of his life, things were very different in our marriage. The way he led his life, he modeled the things that were important to Jesus. From showing affection to me, to giving them kisses and saying, I love you, to playing catch and teaching them about how to be respectful to one another and to me. He modeled what he believed according to his faith. Today, my kids think that we had the best marriage in the world, and they are looking for their mate to be somebody like what we found in each other. And that brings great joy to my heart to think my kids saw that in our marriage. September 11th was just like any other day. Tom gave me a kiss goodbye and left for work. Shortly after that, I drove my kids to school, and I came home. I was sitting out on my back deck. My phone rang, and from there the nightmare started. People asked me if I had my television on. I said no. I don't watch television in the morning. And they said, is Tom home? I said no, he isn't home. He's on a trip. And they said, well, can I come over? And I said, why do you want to come over? He said, well, and we were kind of going back and forth a little bit, and finally they told me that some planes had been hijacked and that they were coming right over. And shortly after that, my house filled with people, and women started praying with me, and I was on the phone with American Airlines, and the chief pilot came out. The moment I saw the chief pilot, I started screaming, "No, God. Please don't call him home. Please don't call him home." And I was just begging God with everything I had, just going hysterical, saying, "No, God, don't call him home." And shortly after that is when the chief pilot said his official word that there were no survivors. That was such a crushing moment. And then I quickly moved from realizing what had just happened to thinking, my kids. Now I have to go tell my kids that news. And I had just realized that my heart disintegrated. And now I had to go to tell my kids at their school. That was so difficult. Some friends drove me to the school, and we were in the principal's office. And my kids were on the phone calling me to find out if Dad was okay before I even knew anything. They were hearing things at school on the radio. And when they saw me, all we did was we embraced, and I told them, Jesus called Daddy home. We were crying, hugging. But because of our faith, we knew that when I said Jesus called Daddy home, they knew the impact of that. Even through the shock and the sadness and our hearts crumbling, saying the words Jesus called Daddy home meant something. It meant everything. There is a lot to be angry about. What happened on September 11th is a horrific experience, and there is a lot to be angry about. The evil that was done destroyed many lives. Children will grow up without a parent. People have lost children. There is so much heartache that was caused by the evil that was done. But I also understand that if anger is allowed to take root inside my heart, that bitterness is going to set in. And if bitterness sets in my heart, it's going to squeeze out the love that God wants me to have in my heart. And I don't want that. I want to be filled with God's love. This grief is so difficult. The pain of having my heart crushed in a second, in the blink of an eye, is more than I can comprehend at times. But there are many days that because I know Jesus Christ and I know that what He says and His promises that He makes to us, I am so convicted that He is going to carry out His promises that I am overcoming my grief. I am sad that I don't get to live here with Tom anymore, but because of my faith, Tom lives on. And I know that, and I am starting to find joy in everything that I do, that my husband went home to be with the Lord. And although it's hard at one level to think, how can you find any joy in that? But my whole faith is based on getting to where Tom is now. I want people to know that Jesus Christ is real. That when something so evil happens and hurts us so deeply, that there needs to be someone bigger than evil that can restore a crushed heart. And that person is Jesus Christ. My faith and my desire to follow my Lord after September 11th has gone so much deeper than it ever was before. I realized that because of who Jesus is, that He is the only way that my life can ever be restored.